So thank you to those who have joined us at 6 o'clock today. My time in Scotland. I'm Nisha, and today we're together to work on the Golden Fleece arts process to explore how it feels, this Golden Fleece search and adventure that we'll be going on together. We're just waiting for a few more people to join us, and I hope you have all your art materials with you. I certainly have mine in order. Hopefully everything will stay intact and we can start soon. It'll be for 2 hours with a little short break in the middle. And you can let me know if you feel like one at any point sooner. Can't hear you, Maud. Are you saying something, Maud? I think let's start. And we are expecting a few more people that may come. So we'll leave it at that if they do or don't. They might just catch up with the recording later. So the first thing I'd like to do is introduce myself. Just share the screen so I can remember. Oh yeah. This is really for me to remember. So I'm Nisha, and I'm a transpersonal arts counsellor, and I work as a quietude practitioner as well for transitions and crossings of the threshold. And I'm a graduate of the Tobias School of Art and Therapy, so its basis is anthroposophy. I used to be a corporate banker for 15 years in London. Now I'm in Scotland, and I've just finished working at Camp Hill, and I'm returning to private practice, doing workshops online and in person, and also coordinating listening groups, and online and in person. Some people call it the Saturn path of listening. Some people call it Goethean listening. But it's basically how do we weave together the personal and the social by leaving each other free, but also a space where people can share struggles, pain, things like that. I'm also a singer. Now, the reason I do this is because when I heard about Subdidi, I thought, gosh, it's so wonderful that that process can happen. Because I've grown up with this Jason and the Argonauts story. And in a minute, I'd love to hear what your history is with Jason and the Argonauts, or the Golden Fleece myth, if any. And it doesn't have to be, but just I met it by watching a movie, an American blockbuster film, Technicolor, with tanned, bulky warriors on a real ship, a galleon, crossing the seas. So it's a very earthly picture of adventurers going on a quest. And now revisiting it again as a story for transformation, healing, to understand ourselves better. It's a real honor to be able to bring this as a fundraiser for the Subdidi project, to bring peace to the area. And I don't know whether you know that Theodore and Ilse ran a few talks about the project, and there'll be a group of people going to Subdidi in July, so your contributions will go towards this. So for me, it was about searching for true peace and quiet, to be seen and heard, but also left free. And this is how I have come to do this work, that how does one navigate one's ship in its many meanings? So I'm presenting here a picture of a ship, to adventure through hidden terrains that we may not be able to do by ourselves. So today it's about creating a vessel for our group, as if we're shipmates traveling on the high seas, to retrieve the Golden Fleece, which has been taken by the dragon. He's kept the Golden Fleece safe. A king has put it there, and we'll be doing an arts process to retrieve this fleece today. The next workshop will be about Medea poisoning a king. So So before we do that, it's fine. Okay. So one of the things is, what are we searching for on our adventure? So I'd like you to now just let me know if you're coming here with any questions in particular. I have a few listed. So it'd be good to hear your name, your location, your history, if any, of the Golden Fleece or Greek myths in general. Could be Jason and the Argonauts, maybe not. And also whether you're, what made you join? Yes, there's been a lot of history conversations from Theodore and Ilse, who've been talking about the Colchis mysteries and about the fact that Georgia and Sugdidi in Georgia is known as the old location of the Colchis mysteries. And the ancient kingdom there has a kind of imprint that we're going to be looking at in our present day time, which is Sugdidi. So without further ado, these are some of the questions that we could carry along with us as we go along with our process. And I'm going to be reading you a story. And I also have examples on screen of the process, and I can work alongside as well. So that if you need to look at my picture and where we're going, you can. You don't need to. And if there's anything you don't want to do, you don't have to. So feel free to say, I'd rather not share, or actually this, I don't want to do the lines, or, it's completely free for you to do, but I would encourage you to travel together with each step of the process. There's 3 steps, and we're going to go into carrying what, I would say, keeping it biographical and current to what we're noticing in our lives, our personal lives and our personal relationships, whether there's recurring themes that are coming up, but also what we're noticing on the news or in our outer world of what's been going on, or what we care about as social change, perhaps, that we'd love to see happen in the world. So these are the kind of themes that we want to carry along. So I would take a few minutes to think about that. These are some of the questions that are indications that you could also carry if you wanted to. So something like, what are we all searching for? Because there seems to be quite a frenzy of movement. How can I become in resonance with nature? Could be a question. How can we discover new feeling through the art of listening? We may have wonderful people who listen to us in our lives and others who may not be able to, or it changes. So but is it about listening? And how can I work together with others through my heart? Is another question that could come. How can we support one another to travel a path on which we are all standing? Is one that I really like. So there's a sense of movement together, yet one is traveling alone, but on the same ground. And then another one is, how can I strive to discern truth, beauty, goodness? And we might see a lot of information about truth, goodness, beauty, well-being, health, love, but how does one discern the feeling of it that feels good? And that may be a very individual search. So I'd like to start with a little song about a boat. Now I'm in Scotland, so I'm going to sing you a little bit of it. It's called the Skyboat Song, just to get us into our contemplation of traveling on our ship together. So if you can make your adjustments and just be comfortable with yourselves. I'll talk about the Argo and what that is in a minute, but just to contemplate the question. And I'd like you to even write it down, if you can. If there's any of the ones that you see or another one that's come, it's something like, I wonder what, where, when, how. And it could be 2 or 3 questions that are really pressing on you at this time, or that you're maybe hungry to find out. So if you have a piece of pen and paper just on the side somewhere, just noting it down, just so you have it. And it's good if you could write it in pen or pencil if you have it to paper. It could be one of these, it could be your own one. So here's the song. Wee bonny boat, like a bird on the wing, on the waves of the fly. Carry the lad that's born to be king, over the sea to sky. Sweet bonny boat, like a bird on the wing, onwards the sailors cry. Carry the lad that's born to be king, over the sea to sky. Just a little song called the Skyboat Song. And it speaks about the stormy weather, whether it's the seas or the sky or the relationships that are on the boat itself. There's a lot of movement and encounters happening, challenges. So just let me know if you have something of a question. You can either say yes or nod or show of hand that you have some kind of a question in mind or a theme. Do you have a question? Or a question for yourselves. I don't need to hear it, but just you're carrying a question. Yes? So the Argo ship was basically 48 constellations. And now it's a grouping of 3, the Ia-U constellations. And this is from Wikipedia. You can have your own interpretation of what Argo is. In my language, the Nav or the Navis is a boat. So in ancient Indian, the Nau was a boat. The other picture I want to leave with you is this of the Argo. So this is a Roman era picture map of constellations. They were put together by an Andreas Cellarius a long, long time ago. Can't remember which century. But I wanted to point out that in the middle is the Argo ship of this map. And then we've got the Aries on the edge. I don't remember where that is. Somewhere here on the end. So just to keep that in mind, that in the old days, the Aries constellation was considered the ram or the sheep, and the ship Argo was one of the constellations in the middle. And in our time, we call it the Golden Fleece story. So I'll now read that story to you before we move into the process. So today, we'll be working with the part of the Golden Fleece story where Jason, who's the hero of the Argonaut story, has to go into an area where there are lots of trees. And he needs to retrieve the Golden Fleece, which is hanging on an oak tree, guarded by a dragon. And he doesn't know what's going to happen. But that's the piece of the work that we're going to do, retrieve the Golden Fleece. And what that looks like for you in your picture will be very different, of course. And dragons can look very different to ones with tails and scales, which you'll see. So the golden ram skin of the sheep here, the ram, it was said to have supernatural powers, and it symbolized and protected the kingdom's power. And there was a tyrannical ruler, a king, called Pelias. And I'd like you to imagine a kingdom in your mind. So bring these pictures to life. But if you were to imagine a kingdom called Iolcus near Athens, ruled by a tyrannical ruler called Pelias. What would this look like? So bring to life these pictures in your mind if you can. Now, I'm going to briefly give you the whole arc of the story and then give you the concentrated part that we're going to be working with in detail, so we can really live into it. So this Pelias king, who was a tyrant, was overthrown by his half-brother, Aeson, who was the rightful king. He'd actually overthrown the original king, who was a good king. And the son of the old king was called Jason, Aeson's king, and the rightful heir to the throne of Ilkos. And he was secretly hidden away because his uncle had taken the throne. And him and his mum, his mother, took him to the place where the centaurs lived, who were half man and half horse, and left the child there in their care. And they raised him. Now, the centaurs are the archetype of the wounded healer. So Chiron is one of the characters in the story, and he grew up. And at some point, Chiron told him that he's the rightful heir to the throne of Ilkos, and Jason, who's grown up now, decides that he'd like to go back and take the throne from his uncle and replace that old king as the rightful heir to the throne. Except when he goes there, King Pelias is unwilling to give him the kingdom. And so he devises a plan and thinks, well, maybe I'll send the boy off on an adventure that he'll never come back from. So he sets Jason impossible tasks to retrieve the Golden Fleece that's guarded by the dragon. I want to go into just quickly how this fleece got to the tree, but also how we even have a fleece in the first place. And this will require you to imagine the pictures a bit far back in history. So before Jason sets off on his adventure, because he really thinks he can get this fleece and take the kingdom back, the fleece itself came from a story that dates back to the past, where two children, a boy and a girl, called Phrixus and his sister Helle. There's a boy called the Phrixus and Helle, the sister. They were royal children, and they had a stepmother who'd come in, and she treated them very badly. And in fact, she hated them and treated them so bad that they used to cry to the gods and pray that somehow somebody would come and rescue them, or they'd be taken away. So they're on a hill guarding the sheep, as they do, and they see something golden sparkling on the hill. And as they get closer to the top of the hill, they notice this shimmer of gold in the sunlight. And it's the Golden Fleece. And it's actually a very much alive ram, huge with big horns, sparkling in the sunlight. And they're in awe of this Golden Fleece. So they approach it. And quite intuitively, they know that they need to get onto this ram with its Golden Fleece. And as soon as they'd got on, the brother and the sister, it takes flight across the sea, and they need to hold on tight because it's going quite fast, the boy and the girl, Phrixus and Helle. But Helle, the sister, doesn't hold on very tight, and she falls off as they're flying through the air. And it's heartbreaking because they just escaped the evil stepmother, and they were on their way to freedom, but she falls into the water. And Phrixus, the brother, he cannot stop to rescue her. The golden ram, Ares, arrives at the kingdom of Iolcos, and the good king of Iolcos speaks to Phrixus, Colchis, the new kingdom, and as a sacrifice for the rescue, in gratitude, the golden ram is sacrificed. And that's what they did in those days. So the skin is taken, and Phrixus presents it to the king in gratitude. And the king is so grateful for it that he decides to hang it on this tree. And that's how it happened. that years later, Jason and the Argonauts stories begins. He wants to retrieve that fleece that has stood the centuries of time so that he can then take back his throne. And what happens is that many heroes and travelers volunteer to help Jason. And they have many gifts and talents and skills. They all board the ship. It's a beautiful Argonaut galleon, just like the picture. And they travel across the seas. Now, briefly, what happens is that they meet various trials and adventures as they go. So one of them is where they have to rescue a man from a harpy who keeps taking the old man's food. He has to help a woman across the water. There's a part where they have to conquer two smashing rocks. So they release a bird to go before them, before the rocks clash, so that they can then come out the other side. So they helped with magical powers, really, and the gods constantly helping them through the story. But today, I want to tell you about the Golden Fleece itself. I should also let you know, in case you wanted to work with any of the other trials, that some of the challenges that the king has set, that he thinks he won't be able to come back from, Jason, is to plow the earth with the teeth of the dragon. So these are challenges that will come after he's managed to subdue the dragon. And he also has to then battle various people that come out of the teeth of the dragon. So it's a very symbolic story. And the daughter of the king, called Medea, helps. And she's a symbol of nature. And I've got a handout on that if you'd like it. So she helps Jason often by giving him magic potions and herbs. So she's our medicine woman, so that he can retrieve the fleece. So I'm going to read that part out where Jason approaches the fleece. One also thing I should let you know that he doesn't want to fight anybody. He wants to retrieve the fleece without destroying anybody, which is quite a beautiful intention. Just find the right part. So we find ourselves in a part of the story that you can imagine. We have the king and Medea, his daughter. Now, unknown to either Jason or the shipmates, Medea was thinking to herself hard how she might help the hero. She's fallen in love with Jason, who's a very handsome hero, and she'd seen him at dinner at her father's table and had been stirred by his beauty and manliness. I'm going to actually put it up here so you can see the words if you need them. So Medea was thinking to herself how she might help the hero. Over here. And never before had she felt love for such a man. And you can look away if you'd like to imagine. Now suddenly she had met new feelings, and she wanted to against one another. And she knew that her feelings strove against one another because she was the daughter of the king who wanted to kill Jason. But she knew that her love was also stronger than herself. And as many thoughts flew through her mind, her heart said something else. And she said to herself, if I do not help him, this noble stranger will surely perish. So she said to herself, I will help him, and I will betray my father's kingdom, and I will rescue this unknown foreigner so that he can go home, and maybe he'll become another woman's husband. But she wanted him for herself, and she wanted to help him. So she said to herself, before I help him, he will give me his promise to marry me. And then he will never deceive me or forget what I have done for him. And that is the condition that she put towards Jason. And as she sat there thinking, her sister came to her and said, Medea, she said, my son Argus, whose life you know Jason saved, has sent me to beg for your help. Give the stranger some device, I pray, whereby he can overcome the bulls. So she gives him some magic potion, and surely enough, he goes to the fields, and this is where she actually goes to pray to Hecate's temple, and the magic potion gives him strength to survive the bulls. And the bulls part is where Medea, where the king has actually said to Jason, plow the field. So that's the first trial. Let me just have a look, sorry. I've got the right part. So he has to plow the fields and sow the dragon's teeth, but he has to go and conquer the dragon first. So just get the right part. So he's plowed the fields with the help of Medea. She helps him again by giving him a tip on how to conquer people that come out of the ground, having sown the dragon's teeth. But before she does that, let me just get the right thing. So that's the part. So she helps him. Jason plowed and plowed the field, and as he walked up and down the field, he kept taking from the helmet the dragon's teeth. This is a different dragon. That's why it's confusing. And he sowed them, and in the afternoon, the field was done. He unyoked the bulls, and they fled in terror. And then fear took over the hold of the Argonauts. But essentially what's happened is that the king has found out that Medea's helped him with the trials. And she's nervous for her situation. And she's not sure whether Jason's going to marry her. And that was the deal. So Medea passed the night away in agony. She feared her father was going to get her. But she feared most of all that he would leave her without taking her with him, even though she's helped him with the trials. At last, she made her decision. So the palace doors opened at her magic spells, and she hurried to the shore where the Argonauts kept a great fire burning. And at her call, Jason leaped ashore. And she said to him, my father is planning a fearful vengeance on you and me, so you better save yourselves and me from his wrath. And she said, I will get you the Golden Fleece. Only swear to me, swear that you will treat me honorably and care for me when I become a stranger in your land. And she said, the gods be my witness that I shall make you my wife, says Jason. So then they go, and she goes to the fleece. So quickly the ship carried them to the sacred grove where the dragon is. Having conquered the trials, having realized that the fathers found out, and they're both fearing for their lives, so are the Argonauts, and they're about to leave the island where the trials are complete to finish and get the fleece back. And the fleece is sitting in a sacred grove of oak trees. So together with Jason and Medea, they approach the sacred oak tree. The dragon has stretched his long neck towards them. He sees them, he hisses fiercely. But Medea's charms lulls the creature to sleep. So more magic, and for the first time, the sleepless eyes closed. So the dragon's been awake for a while, but it's because of Medea's magic that the dragon goes to sleep. Then Jason snatches the golden fleece from the limbs of the tree, and the tree run away towards the ship. And they look at the marvelous prize, and it's shining gold, and it's centuries old. And he says to his shipmates, my noble comrades, let us be on our way, or we shall surely be pursued. And then Medea is there with them, and she helped them accomplish the task. And Jason agrees that he will take her as his lawful wife and protect her for she's the one who rescued them. So they seat themselves down and off they go with their oars, guiding the vessel down the river and out to the sea. So this is the part that's after the trial. And now we're going to do the process of just picturing back what you've heard. So I'd invite you to close your eyes. And we've seen there was a trial where the king thinks that Jason is not going to complete his mission. And Medea, the medicine woman who has magical powers and herbs, is helping. So we'll start with that part where Medea discovers that her father has found out that she helped Jason with the trials. She's nervous about whether she's going to be taken away to safety with Jason or whether her father will destroy her in some way. Where is she standing? What's her face say to you? What is she wearing? What is in the background? Is she inside or outside? And now invite Jason to come forward towards her. What does he look like? What's he wearing? What's his facial expression? As she tells him that her life is in danger, his life is in danger. Her father, the king, has found out that she helped him with the 3 trials and that he's coming for them. She knows he has to go and get the fleece. It's the last thing he has to do. And she's nervous whether he will take her with him. He promises to her that he will. And she gives him some magic. A herb. A violet flower. It is special medicine that can put the dragon to sleep, she tells him. So picture Medea handing this violet flower to Jason. And now move Jason to travel by foot to the sacred grove of trees on the island. These are oak trees. A grove of trees is a circle of trees. Huge, mighty oak leaf trees. And one of the trees is guarded. At the foot of one of the oak trees is a dragon. What color is the dragon? What tells you it's the dragon? What's the weather like around him? And when Jason approaches the dragon, what is his facial reaction? As he hisses, he makes sounds, angry, that he can see Jason approaching. You're Jason in your picturing. Remember, Jason has no intention of battling him. So he pulls out the violet flower and approaches very steadily. He holds out the violet flower towards the dragon. And you can change your view if it helps. You may want to look at the picture from above, at the sides. So Jason is giving your dragon this violet flower. And no sooner has the dragon smelt the fragrance of this herb that Medea has given, that dragon starts to fall asleep. And then you can see this beautiful golden fleece hanging on that branch. You wait a little bit. before you approach the oak tree, checking that the dragon is asleep. He's busy snoring away on the ground, curled up. And you reach up and you take that golden fleece. Notice how it feels in your hands. Become Jason's hands if it helps. Notice it sparkling in the sunlight, perhaps. And then know that you've won the prize. And in a hurry, it's time to go before the dragon wakes up again. And perhaps the flower doesn't have the fragrance as long as it needs to. So you turn and run towards the ship where the shipmates are waiting. And you board that ship with the golden fleece, and everyone feels joyful. Very, very happy. And there are celebrations that you've won the golden fleece. Everyone is safe and well. All the heroes that you traveled with, all the trials that were conquered, that people thought were impossible, very dangerous too. Bulls and harpies and monsters smashing rocks. And Medea is with you. So we'll now work to come back to ourselves slowly, letting go of that picture, knowing that you have what you needed. And you're on your way back to take the throne from the tyrant king, because it's your kingdom. You never thought you could do it. I'm wondering whether, how was it for you to picture? Okay. So you will have had different imagination pictures of the characters, Jason, Medea, perhaps the old king, perhaps even the new king, where you will return and take back the throne. It can come, because I've sort of spoken about the past and the future a little bit, and on the ship as well. So these many, many pictures are there. And I wonder if I asked you, what was the strongest picture for you that stayed from your imagination? Or feeling even, or a character that stood out, or a moment that you could name. This is true, yeah. I mean, in our lives, how often we'll be facing a dragon. And yet it's a symbolic picture that we're going to work with of this dragon or in our lives. I won't say too much about it. We're going to go into the process now. And I'll invite you to pick out your red, white, and black pastels. That's the first colors we're going to use. And I'll demonstrate here.
Sorry, I didn't understand. Red, white, and what is the third color?
Black.
Black, okay.
Just to have those ready. Now, one of the things that we met was this beautiful Colchis autumnalis, which is the name of this violet flower, in my picturing of it. And I was really struck by this. So I just wanted to show you this. This is an example of the Colchicum autumnale. And it's a plant that grows very beautifully in Colchis itself, which is where our story comes from. So we're going to be including this particular flower. It may have been that flower that was used by Medea as herbs. It may not have been, but it's certainly a plant that is very much in abundance in our story place. So just a few facts about it. It grows in Colchis, and there are many, many different colors. And in our current day Georgia, if you visit there, you will find lots of this Colchis autumnalis. The unique thing about it is that it flowers and fruits separately at different times. So in autumn, the bulb roots to the underground, and a long, delicate flower tube is there with 6 pale pink or violet petals. And when it grows upwards, it's rooted under the ground, and the ovary remains near the bulb in the ground. So there's just movement up and movement down. Now in spring, it produces 3 green leaves, and then the ovary grows upwards, forming a capsule fruit in the leaf funnel, and then disperses the seeds in the summer when they're ripe. It's highly toxic to human beings and many animals, and it can be used for treating pain, inflammation, arthritis, and even cancer. And the plant has its movement over the year, like I said, between poison, life, and healing, but it does have healing properties. So without further ado, we have our pastels ready, and I'll be working alongside. But what I'd like you to do is just, if you have a pencil, this is what we're going to do first. So this is a continuous line drawing, and it's a copy of what you're seeing here. So what we're going to do is take the outline of this picture, and without taking your pencil off the paper, begin to make the shapes of the flowers, the leaves, and anything else that you notice.
Sorry, Nisha, but I only see the ship.
You only see the ship? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that better? No.
Oh, still the Argo.
This one. There?
Yeah.
Oh, there. So, okay. So I'll just recap a little bit. So this is what we're looking for. A continuous line while you're looking at the picture here. So this is the flower that grows in Colchis, our kingdom of the Golden Fleece. And we're going to invite it to help us to ground. So it's a way of taking in current day Georgia. And on the sheet, the way it will work is that I look at, so here's the demonstration. I can see the flowers, so I can start anywhere I want on the page. And I start to make maybe the leaf lines, but without taking the pencil off the page. So a continuous line of making these shapes. Just looking at the picture and continually making lines. Even if they cross over each other, it doesn't matter. And then you can maybe go to the next flower by just traveling to the next flower petals. And they can cross over. We're just taking in the lines. Without taking your pencil off the page. And it's okay if you leave bits out, it doesn't have to be perfect. Make the inside of the leaves or the outside, up to you. Trusting your eyes and your fingers, your pencil markings, to just make the lines as needed. And you could cover your page, or you could just leave it empty, but you'll know when it's time to stop, so trust your intuition. Me, I like to cover my page. You may decide to leave some parts clear, so when it feels like you've taken as much of this picture line outlines in to your picture, then you can stop. Wait 20 more seconds to make your final lines. However they come, just the outlines of some of the leaves perhaps, or the flowers. Really up to you which lines are taken into your page. So you have something with lines. Doesn't have to be like mine at all. Okay. Doable? Is that okay? Okay. So we've taken our cultures automalis. And the next part is to pick up our red, white, and black. And beginning to now color in some of the shapes that have come. And it's up to you which shapes you're going to color in black, red, or white. And I would say begin to start to bring in a sort of balance of all three colors. So here's an example of mine where I've got black, red, white. Yeah, I probably should have had more white on mine, but beginning to color in some of the shapes that are there and the background that's there. Now for you, a background would be very different, and you're not trying to make anything. You're just coloring in some of the shapes with these three colors. The other part you could do is just to even highlight some of the outlines. So if your intuition feels like it would like to copy one of the lines that you have in red, black, or white, you can. So for example, let me clear it, hold it closer. You can either color in some of the petal ones that you have. And it doesn't have to be one color, but you're using your intuition to just color in some of the shapes that are there. And you might start with one color, or you might go to move between colors, really up to you. We're just bringing out some of the shapes with these three colors, all the lines. Be sure to include your white, because when we blend, we might begin to get new colors. You might even want to put two colors together on top of each other, which would be fine as well. Some sort of a balance of your red, black and white. And ideally just coloring at the moment, so I'm not blending, but just placing the colors. Because later we're going to blend. I choose to leave some of the parts clear, which would be fine too. Do remember to include your white. Some of it might be dark red, where you press a bit more with your pastel. And some of it might be a little bit lighter, perhaps, where you press a little less. If you can, it would be good to have your screen a little bit down so I could see, if at all possible. I should have said earlier.
I'm working with my tablet. I don't know. Can you see it?
Oh yes, I can see it. Right. Okay, yeah, it's coming along. Okay, great. Yeah. So you've got some lovely balance of your red, black, and white coming along, all of us. red, black, white happening. Great. Good balance. And once you feel like you've got all three colors there, your intuition will naturally want to start blending. So once you've got the colors there on the page, I would suggest getting your finger and beginning to loosen some of the color. So you can start to really use your finger if you can and begin to bring some of the softer parts into the picture. So you can leave some of the shapes hard. That means you might want to keep some of the lines where they are or the shapes where they are, and some of them you might want to let go and now almost break the border. So up to now we were coloring in the shapes, but now you can break those borders, the outline of the flowers that you did, and allow those colors to meet the neighbors a little bit. So some of the red might meet the black next door. Some of the white might meet the red next door. So begin to break your borders a little bit. Well, this can get a little bit tricky because there may be a natural feeling of taking the white away. So do try and keep some of your white. And blend some of the pastel. And you might notice that purple starts to appear or gray starts to appear. But again, try to keep some of the original colors on the page where possible. And I hope you have your wet wipes to hand if you need to use it to change color in your blending. Or you might be very dab hand and clever with maybe using your other fingers. So there's an extra finger to blend with. And if you are going to your wet wipe, remember to dry off before going back to your pastel. Otherwise it can get a little bit murky, especially because we're using black. So after the black, you might want to have a little wipe on your wet wipe and then your dry cloth before coming back. So again, not trying to make anything in particular, but just loosening some of the borders, blending a little bit so that your picture and the beings and the colors know that we're engaged. And perhaps even remembering the question that was posed earlier, just to bring it back in to awareness. You might even want to add some of the pastel colors to bring some of the shapes to clarity if you feel like you need to add more black somewhere or more white somewhere, feel free. Can I see your pictures again, please, ladies? So you're loosening the borders. So you're really letting go of some of the outlines and breaking some of the colors free, stretching them out of the outlines, adding more color if needed. And in a minute, we're going to turn the picture to see, what is it? Do we notice a motive? Characters, perhaps, a place. I'll give you another half minute just to finish your initial blending. You might start to notice shapes and figures, but try to keep it loose without trying to create something in particular, because we want to stay a little bit more open to surprises still. And you might notice that we're using peach blossom. And I just want to tell you a little bit about this peach blossom color, or purple, which is coming. So a few violets, or incarnadine, as Steiner called it. So for Steiner, peach blossom brings us into connection with incarnation as an inner soul process. So peach blossom, it's said that when it's born, peach blossom is born rather when one could say that when black, white, and red are in a particular dynamic activity together, which is when dark and light are interweaving in the movement. And peach blossom doesn't want anything for itself. A little bit like our Jason, he doesn't want to battle the dragon, he just wants to have the fleece. And it's a kind of future color where we move or live into the future with courage. And we might find these three colors in many, many fairy tales, especially about women. They also appear in the Eleusis mysteries as the three mothers. Okay. So now we're going to look at the picture. If possible, if you can turn it round to look at it on your own. And you might want to get some distance from it so you can maybe stand up. And just take a couple, a step back, or just look at it from a little bit of a distance and notice the different shapes that are there. And then if you can, turn it round. And if you can't, don't worry, because it may be in a place where you can't. But see if you can turn it round to look at it from a different direction. And there are 4 possible directions, and I like to look at all 4. But look at it from a different perspective and see, what are these shapes? And does something of these new shapes that isn't the one that you are looking at offering you something that speaks to you as a place or people, or maybe a dragon, I don't know, parts of nature perhaps? Are there faces, eyes, wings, plants, mountains? What's standing out for you? And feel free to turn it again so you get another view of your picture. And have a look at that to see, does anything jump out to you there of these shapes that have come? And then turn it again and have another look at a different place. Because in a minute, you'll be bringing out some of the shapes that you can see. And they might be people, or animals, birds. There might even be little eyes that you can see. I've certainly got 2 eyes. And decide on a view that you would like to work with, which may not be the original view that you started. And very gently start to bring out some of the shapes. And by that, you can take your pastels and start to strengthen what you see. So for example, if I see a rose here, just come closer to camera. In fact, I'll pick these wings. I see these wings. So I would just strengthen these wings. Maybe even.
I cannot see your picture, Nisha.
Is that better?
No, I see I see you with your chair.
Oh. Okay. Maybe you need to put it on gallery view or pin. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here are some wings, perhaps, and this could be somebody's helmet with eyes and a nose. Maybe this is a rose for me. Where you're adding color now. And here, at this point, you can add any color you like. So I'm just gonna not pin this now. I should give you an example of what I mean. So now you can use any colors you like and really discover your own individuality in these 3 colors that have come. So on mine, for example, this is an example. I put yellow and I found a person and someone looking rather beastly. Okay, so this is what I found in my picture from a demonstration that I did. So you're looking at the shapes and adding in new parts to see, well, what does that remind me of? Is that a head? Is that a pair of wings? Is that? So I made my picture, which was like this. It's exactly the same one. And you can begin to see that this is how I did the picture. And these are the shapes that come, and all I did was make them into characters. So this was what I found earlier. So you're looking for something on your picture where it wants to be something. And can you help it to be something? And it doesn't have to be red, black, and white. You might even notice that, oh, that looks like the Golden Fleece, or maybe that sharp part looks like dragons or claws, or and it doesn't have to be the picture either. It could just be something from nature or a scene of some sort. putting other colors if you need them. And if you can tilt your screen so I can see as you work, that would be really useful as well. If not, don't worry. It might be the part of a body, the inside perhaps, the outside. It could simply be something in a woodland. Not to suggest any of this at all, but you will have your own intuitions of what you see. We'll take 2 more minutes just to find that motif and bring some additional colors to it if you would like to. You might want to keep it as it is, but some kind of additional color would be useful. You're really bringing it into a sense of wholeness by adding colors, ideally covering most of the page if you can with some kind of color. It doesn't have to be red, black, and white, but now, though you might want it that way. And keep looking at it to see, is there anything else there? Is there anything else there? And does it want to be there today? And could extra lines or shapes be added to maybe give it some limbs or something it needs, like ground or the sun or whatever it is? And we'll bring it to a close now. Making the last few marks. There's one last thing to do, which is to look at your own picture and wonder about something on your page. So something has come on your page and it's caught your attention. And just to name, what are you wondering about it? And it may not be complete. You might want to work on further with your picture. And that would be fine. But at this point, we have some time to just share our reflections of how that process was for you and what you noticed in yourself, in your observations of your work, in the way you were perhaps blending or needing something or another. What did that process teach you about the golden fleece that's being searched for? Maybe it's a feeling that's now come to you. So you'll be working further with that. Yeah, some amazing symbols there. You have a sense of direction, the beings, what it could become. And you can add color perhaps, or even have new pieces of paper to see what happens next.
Mm-hmm.
What I like to do is recreate the picture on a second page and then move it along one step.
Mm-hmm.
And then leave it for a few days and then maybe step to number 3 after I read number 2. What does the dragon want to do? What does the flower want to do? Who is this being and can I see what they're holding? Could be questions, and then that can...
And you mean drawing painting it again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Only if you want to. It's
mm-hmm.
choice. You might want to just work with the same one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for you, Maud, maybe turn it, because I get the sense that, what would it be that now that you've worked with it a bit more, you could even look at it again in the 4 directions to see.
Good idea. Mm-hmm.
Does that give me something different?
Mm-hmm.
Like if she kept turning. So these are some of the ways that it could work. Okay.
Thank you.
Good work, everyone. I'm just gonna... There we are. Okay. Yeah, so we're coming up to the end of our workshop. And I just wanted to let you know that what we've done today is to work with the story of the Golden Fleece. We've traveled through some of the history of the Colchis mysteries. We've traveled through how the Golden Fleece came to be hanging on the oak tree. And we've also looked at this, I'm going to say now the word underworld, because our 3 goddesses, there's various goddesses of the upper world, the middle world, and the lower world. And these are the 3 colors that we worked with. And Rudolf Steiner gave us the wisdom from these colors that are in many ancient fairy tales of the red, black, and white. Certainly in the Vasilisa story, which is one that I work with quite a lot, Vasilisa the Brave. It's a Russian fairy tale. It's a beautiful one with the 3 riders on horseback and a Baba Yaga, which is the kind of lady that's there. And we can work with these stories artistically to see the soul movement in ourselves. And we followed this process to see a kind of listening to our intuition. Because in a world where the intellect of the known world, of what do I know, what do you know, can be a sort of cultural presence, and there's a space for the intellect, of course, can we loosen it a little bit to bring in something of listening, where the soul has a chance to participate through picture work? And fairy tales are wonderful for picture work. Greek myths, fable stories are really, really good. So one of the stories that will come for the next workshop on the 15th of May will be about Medea, where they arrive in the new land with the fleece, and the king will not give up the throne. So this is one of the future workshops that is on the 15th. If you'd like to join for that, you're most welcome. And we'll go through the similar process. And it would be good to also notice what happens in our lives now that we've worked with this story, but also the colors. So I'd encourage you to perhaps log your dreams tonight. Watch your lives throughout the week to see very objectively something of where is the Jason quality in myself or the other? Where is the feeling of the Argonauts in myself or around me? Who is the Medea as a character or a quality within myself, or in another that I would love to emulate, perhaps, that I haven't found within me? So something a little bit more biographical may come. You can keep it as a sort of research of the story, and I'd highly recommend reading the whole story if you get a chance. It's a beautiful myth story, Jason and the Argonauts on the Golden Fleece, and to live with it and revisit it can offer you new insights every time kind of unfolding can happen as you question and take questions into the nighttime as well. So before bed, you might want to carry your question that you found from listening to the story, or one of the pictures that has stayed with you, perhaps. So there's that. And then I wonder if you guys might have questions that you'd like to pose now for me about anything at all before we close with a little song. So you could do the process yourself by reading the Golden Fleece story. Working with a Colchis autumnalis flower is recommended so that we stay grounded as we notice the shapes and figures that come. It's an interesting question to look at the role of Medea and the feminine.
Yeah.
In a way, she exudes many masculine qualities, and in a way, Jason includes many masculine, feminine qualities. And it's one of those things that we can look at Medea as nature, and Jason as our kind of inner hero as well, if that's one way to look at it. But I can share a file with you because I've kept it. And in fact, I have your email, so what I can do is just probably email it to you if it's easier, or you can take it from here. But these are two.
If you could email it to me, I would be very grateful.
Okay. They're also in the chat if you want them. There's two articles that are really lovely on nature and our qualities that we could look at. Just to finish that, really with a little bit of music, just to bring us back to Earth, so to speak, having looked at the constellations of the Argonauts, the Golden Fleece, and from a cosmological point of view, but also an earthly point of view through the myth story. And I wish you well with living into the process and the story, and maybe see you on the next workshop. Otherwise, I'll send you the handouts, and I wish you well with your questions. Okay, all the best. And lovely to meet you, Brigitte, Maud. And thank you for your help today, Ludmila.